Why the Argonaut ship, the Argo, was a flying aircraft. The evidence that leads to this conclusion. Now let's remember, this was tens of thousands of years ago, most probably before the Great Flood. And let's remember that we even have sightings like this one here in the Arctic by the U.S. Navy. This is a U.S. Navy image. And we will have some disclosure this June 1st, according to John Radcliffe. But we have texts from ancient Greeks and historians telling us that they were flying, and they were flying in a matter of days or hours from Europe all the way to India, all the way to Latin America, etc. And this was not only the ancient Greeks that had ancient texts concerning flying craft, but this is concerning the Argonauts. Now, and they, as we know, they were not just everyday sailors. They were royalty, and they were educated elite. Why would they be on such craft if they were royalty and educated elite? Now, among the flying vehicles that we occasionally encounter in the ancient Greek literature is the ship of the Argonauts, the Argo, with its campaigns around 3500 BC, 1550 BC, and 1420 BC. Many of us will have heard or read that Argo was a spaceship, or more generally that had to have the ability to fly. The latter can be claimed relatively easily as soon as we try to see its shape, based on the descriptions of Orpheus and his Argonauts. Kindly support my Patreon account, since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. Now, you know of the Aegean Sea in the eastern part of Greece, the Aegean Sea, the Aegean Islands. Now, the word for Egypt is actually a Greek compound word, Egypt, meaning flying over Egypt, flying over the Aegean. Egypt is actually a compound word in Greek, meaning flying over the Aegean. That's just one thing to keep in our minds. Now, going back to this, many of us heard of the Argo. That reading was a spaceship and had the ability to fly, and the latter can be claimed relatively easily as soon as we try to see its shape, based on the descriptions of Orpheus and his Argonauts. And as we see a rare depiction of Argos from the sanctuary of Orthia Artemis in Sparta, it helps us visualize it better, understand what we will describe in the next text. Argo had the shape of an arc. In fact, the decorative circles and the duck symbols of the sun Hyperion are hints for the ships flying in the zodiac. That is, he also flew in space, in other words, outside of Earth's atmosphere. This is according to Theodorou Axiotis concerning the Argo, assuming that the zodiac signs count 13 together with Ophiuchus. Note also that the ship has no oars. The one on the right that looks like a paddle is a platform where the girl steps. Now, according to the Argonauts, the interior of the ship is hollow. The exterior is that of a looking like an island and belonging to the type of Amphilysis. This type is for rowers on both sides, but it also has the meaning of biconvex, that is, convex on both sides and round. The shape of the island is the long ship. In short, the shape of the Argo craft was macro-round. That is, it was the shape of a water drop, like an egg, or maybe like a flying saucer, perhaps. Note that the related words for Amphilysa is Amphielyliktos, which is the second meaning of Eliso. It means the one that rotates in a circle. This allows us to assume that Argo was a rotating craft. Perhaps the above is insignificant to show that Argo did not always come in contact with the sea when traveling. Therefore, let us give the following fact. It seems that Argo was also navigating in the voice of each of its rulers. In other words, it was voice activated. The Argo ship was able to see, to hear, and recognize the voices of the people that had the right to control it and operate it. Okay, so you can imagine what kind of advanced technology this aircraft had. So it navigated with the voice of each of its rulers, something that nowadays is starting to become a reality again. Orpheus, therefore, who followed the goddess Athena's instructions, gave Argo a verbal order to hurry, to go fast. And Argo, obeying, rose up quickly, quote unquote, lightening the whole construction and slipped into the sea. This is according to the Argonauts, verses 270 and 271. What could be clearer than this? So it seems that this type of a UFO, or what we would call, Atlantean technology, Anunnaki technology. We know that from the Emerald Tablets written by Thoth, he wants to credit himself with writing them. They had such technology, the Atlanteans. They had air travel and space travel, interstellar travel, and also interdimensional travel. They were all able to go from one dimension to the other. Of course, they were misusing their advanced technology to the detriment of humans, and Thoth describes that because of their narcissistic and selfish personalities and way of ruling, it was a matter of time before divine intervention did put an end to them. But he claims that a lot of Atlanteans converted to being good and tried to go, and did go, to other continents. The first thing they did was to set up plateaus of pyramids, and that's why we have settlements of pyramids all over the world. Now, going back to this, obviously they had this advanced technology, and this type of a UFO or Argonaut craft was not only for air travel, but it was also for undersea travel. Now, going back to this, even as a final proof that the Argo was a flying craft, we quote the following. Argo has traveled to places without traveling through the sea, or has crossed land in order to find her destination. She has traveled to Kochlis, the Caucasus, Egypt, but also to countries that today we know by the names of America, Russia, etc. Do not wonder how and why. Just consider the following incident that occurred after its construction, where Jason began to sail the Peloponnese with Argo. So as he was, quote unquote, fighting according to Malayan, end quote, he says suddenly the north wind carried him away to Libya. Okay, so from the Peloponnese, suddenly he found himself in Libya. But before he could land well, he fell on the shores of Lake Triton. This is according to Herodotus, verse 4, 179. And it's not only Herodotus which gives us this information. How was Argo found from the Malaya Sea to the land of Africa, several kilometers from the Mediterranean? Was it carried over the land by the wind, without, of course, creasing or emptying the crew into the air? Did the Argonauts carry it on their backs? Or did they just land after a routine flight? You'll tell me a ship, flying saucer, or whatever you want to call it, like Argo, since it has the ability to fly, why is it rowing? First of all, the meaning of amphitheater is twofold. A ship rowing on both sides, and two, biconvex. It may therefore only mean ambiguous, but the copyist responsible for rescuing the text accepted the first A meaning, and therefore consciously or subconsciously completed the distortion on their own. It was like a mistranslation. Finally, we cannot at all rule out the fact that Argo was both rowing and flying. Rowing, yes, but in what sense? Most likely it's just terminology that we cannot explain directly. We can only assume that they used the term rowing when it did not fly in the air, but floated on the surface of the sea. And of course, it did not travel with oars, but with some kind of mechanical technology. Maybe the paddle, quote unquote, showed the power of the ship, just as we use the term horse for our cars today, horsepower, for example. Now, when we say horsepower, or that a car is 10 horsepower, it doesn't mean that there are 10 horses in the car or in front of the car pulling the car. By the same logic, the horsepower of Argos was 50 oars. That is, the power of its engines was as much as 50 men rowing it. It's also possible that Argo had the ability to sail to the current hydrofoils. It's because we see frequent use of the sea at high speed. Perhaps it had some kind of a hydrofoil technology. That is, if we assume that it worked like a flying saucer, it certainly had other features. Whenever it did not fly, it crossed the sea like all ships, since it had a keel, or like a dolphin. Whenever it crossed the land, it probably did so like a hovercraft. This is almost clear from the description, quote, and it rose very fast and made the wood light and slid quickly into the sea, end quote, according to Argonauts, verse 270 and 271. Among other things, the Argo had what we would call a sunroof today. So when in one of the above ways she reached the island of Mars, wow, okay, thousands of birds, and here with dozen wings attacking her, it seems that they surprised the crew, and between the fires of bronze wings, someone hit the Argonaut Aeolus on the shoulder. The rest of his companions, however, overtook and reacted with screams and loud noise, drove these birds away from them. So, except that it was a curved part of its roof, it was opened so that the Argonauts would be exposed to the Greek blue and white sky. All this gives us the image of a ship that had the shape of an arc on both sides, rotated, flew with an anti-gravity system, and finally had the shape and capabilities of a flying saucer. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. I've translated this for you from the Greek article from Diadrastika. And I've also found a very informative article on Alexander the Great. Could it be in the state of Illinois in the United States? Thank you for your support. Please leave your comments.